I want to begin with like something which a lot of browsers are providing out of the box to ensure that the experience for the users on the website is slightly on the better side, and even if say developers are kind of not taking care of it. So for example, BF cache or the backward forward cache, it's something which has existed on browsers like say Firefox or Safari since long time, and very recently it came to Chromium as well. Like I know it took a lot of time, but what this does is, just imagine your user is actually on a website, on your website. Let's imagine in this example where the user is on developer.chrome.com, and then they click on a link and move to the next page, which is basically developers.chrome.com/docs. Now, what happens is, the page which was open before, if it's BF cache enabled, it's actually kept behind. It's actually kept loaded within the DOM for a while, and then the moment somebody clicks on back, it instantly loads without actually having to reload stuff and to like rebuild the DOM or whatsoever. It in fact actually loads so quickly that even the browser sometimes can think like this. Right, so anyway, what I really want to call out is, this doesn't happen by default for all the web pages which are available. We as developers still have some responsibility to take care of, make sure that we are actually taking care of making it eligible for BF cache. And it can be difficult, but I think to our benefit, the Chrome DevTools actually gives you that functionality where it can tell you whether the page is actually eligible or not, and if not, why not. Some of the common issues that you can think about is, maybe say some pages are actually firing unload handlers. You probably are taking some permissions which would change the state and stuff like that. So these are the things which can get highlighted by the DevTools for you, and this is the simplest way to actually make pages eligible for BF cache and make it load quickly for the users who are just navigating. Especially in the mobile world, like a lot of us are really used to just doing those gestures on mobile, right? Like for backward and forward. And every time we do that, like lot of websites keeps reloading the same page, right? And how irritating it could get if the site is really slow and the network is choppy. Maybe you're moving on in the queue. Now this is, in a way, if you imagine it, you must be asking, okay, why is this wrong? This is the right way to go about it. But imagine if you really have a long page, like where you need to scroll and there's an image at the bottom, right? And even that gets queued to get downloaded, while there are other important resources like say JavaScript, CSS, anything and everything that you need to build your website upfront and submit to your user. Why would you want to do that? So even if the image is hidden or is out of the context, you have to like it starts downloading. Now what you can do is, you can actually start using attribute like loading is equal to lazy, which what it does is it brings into the context. It gives the context to browser to start downloading or like putting it in the download queue only when it comes into the viewport. Okay, it imagines it sees the images, plays, and then starts downloading it. The interesting part here is it's also applicable for iframes, right? I don't know if you have already seen this. Some of you might have. Yes. Right? And some of you might be thinking, hey, this is such a simple thing. You should have told me this before only. But see, the point which I'm trying to make here is, there is something like this is supported across the browsers now, even on Safari, starting 15.4 version. And there are so many CMSs, like content management systems like say WordPress, Drupal, Silverstripe, and all these are like natively supporting it. All you need to do if you're a developer on these CMSs is to enable this. One call out I do want to make out is, you should not put these attributes on the images which are at the top of the page or which are very critical. Because just imagine if you put it there, you are basically slowing down the first load itself, which the user will get. So it's not really going to help that way. All right, moving on. I hope this also is a hack which some of the developers here might already be aware of, but let me reiterate. If you define the width attribute and if you put the height as auto, it automatically takes care of the aspect ratio of the image even before it's downloaded. So this way what it means is, based on the responsiveness, the image comes accordingly, and this really helps in benefiting you from the content layout shift, the CLS that we talked about, the jumping effect that we talked about, because if the images are changing on the fly or the resizing is happening, then it could very well mean that you could be clicking somewhere, something else might be happening. But one interesting thing or interesting way to do it now is by using a CSS feature, which is called a CSS property, which is called aspect ratio. And the important part here is it's not only for the images, but it's for all the other elements as well. I mean, some of you could still ask me, so what? But the thing is, for people who know how they fix certain things by using embedded content or placeholders, which are literally not the HTML images, like say a background image, this is like super useful in that scenario now, right? I hope this really makes some of you happy, because with this, some of you could actually say bye-bye to the padding top hack, right? And this way, like a lot of issues are resolved because of which the certain sites try to take the hackish approach, where they can achieve certain good results, but it comes at a cost of the user experience. In fact, let me move to the network priorities now. So it's one of the attributes which has been in the making for so long. And in fact, let me tell you that browsers try to be smart, right? They try to make sure that they are prioritizing the right content for you. They try to do that smart work for you. However, in certain scenarios, right, even the browsers won't really know which to prioritize. Now, for example, you could add two async scripts, right? One out of which is important, the other one is not important. But how will the browser really know that, right? Similarly, there could be two iframes. There could be two images which are actually fighting for the view, but maybe one is more important because it accounts for largest contentful paint, for example, and the other which is not so important, so it could really be considered later on. But you get the point, right? So this is where the priority hints is actually very helpful now, wherein if you have come across these kind of scenarios where you need to give some higher priority to a similar looking image or any other element, you could use this. So if you ask me how to do it, let's take the same example which we presented earlier, and bam, just adding the fetch priority is equal to high or low actually solves the purpose for you. I mean, this way you are actually giving some of the elements which are higher priority to feel like this, right? Again, Ashwal Monday, very important. I keep doing that. And it actually helps you with the largest contentful page, because let me show you an example. So take this example of a website which tries to load its content, and it waits till the end for that fancy background image that you see at the top. Now, since that is accounting for the most part of the web page, it's actually the largest contentful paint, and it's actually making user wait for that long, while that could have been loaded earlier. And as a user, even you can imagine that the perception would have been the site is loading very slow, right? If the top portion is not getting painted, we all feel that it's getting slow, right? Now, with using the fetch priority, you probably could have given a higher priority to this image, and since it comes in faster, it feels faster, it scores faster in terms of performance numbers, and you get a better website. Cool. Let me also quickly talk about another CSS hack, which is called size adjust. Now, this is more to do with fonts. We all love fonts. We want to use a lot many fonts, right? And we all know that there are so many fonts with different sizes despite having the same value. For example, if I say I want Times New Roman in 16px, its size and width could be different from our Arial, for example, right? So there are some local fonts, and even there are fancier fonts which we download. Now, there are even local fonts. So what size adjust does is, it lets you define that how much percent of my current font size I want to put it right now, so that when it gets replaced by some other font, there is no layout shift happening. I don't know if you realize this, but sometimes the font changes and the layout shifts. The reason for that is the developer has actually put in a font which was slightly different shape and size. But with this, now if you know that, okay, this is a local font that will be loaded before my actual font gets loaded, you can actually do this size adjust property and do it. Cool. So some of you might be thinking this is to signify that some of you are like actually angry or like confused. We know how to fix things, but how to identify, right? What exactly to fix? And that's where let's jump onto the optimization cycle workflow, as we call it. Now in this section, I'll walk you through some of the tools which are available so that you can identify some of the problems on your website which exist today. And in fact, there is a loop that we possibly I wanted to actually convey to you. And this loop consists of 3 steps, which is evaluate website health and identify pain points, and then you have to debug and optimize, and then you have to do continuous monitoring and development. In fact, there are so many tools which are available or provided by Google today that a lot of developers, while some of them actually find all of those very useful and they are really experts in those, there are many who actually find it very overwhelming and sometimes can get confused, including some of our, I know some of you might have been in that boat too. So this is where we could club them into some of these steps and think about how to really debug and fix our issues. So let's talk about the number, like step A, which is evaluate website health and identify pain points. So these 3 tools which you see on the top, number 1 is Crux Dashboard, Search Console, and then PageSpeed Insights. You can actually start with Crux Dashboard, which tells you the health of your domain, right? Then go to the Search Console, which clubs the common URLs together so that you can narrow down to what exactly you need to fix. And then you can go to the PageSpeed Insights, which provides you a URL level data about your performance so that you can really focus on that particular URL and fix it. Let's deep dive slightly onto some of these things again.